in the last module, we talked about creating the optimal listing and what you need to do to create the best images, the best copy, and all that kind of stuff. But once you've done that, how do you get that listing discovered? That's called SEO, or search engine optimization. And how do you appeal to the A9 algorithm? How does this thing actually really work to actually surface your listing so people can find it and hopefully buy it because you created a good listing? It all starts with discoverability, all starts with a good product. So you have to have a good fundamental product. If you've got a really good product, don't just do a Me Too product, don't just do the minimum to get by, but create something special, create something unique and something good. It all starts right there. Without a strong product, you may have the best listing, but you're going to fail because you're going to get bad reviews. You're going to get people buying it and going, this just ain't for me. This is misrepresented. It's just not going to work. You're going to slowly fail and fall out of favor. So you want to have a good product. Everything starts with a good product. So do the best you can. I always see people there's something called Vine reviews, and we'll talk about that when we get into the launching stage, where there's people on Amazon, there's buyers on Amazon that you give your product to them for free, and they will write reviews. And this is a great way to actually get some of the initial reviews for your listing. So before you've started, you have 0 reviews, and somebody else has got 100 reviews. People aren't going to trust you over them. So how do you get some of those initial reviews? You can pay Amazon a couple $100, and they will reach out to about 30 people, and they will say, "Hey, do you want Kevin's product? This is what it is. We'll send it to you for free. But in exchange for that, you agree to actually write a review." Amazon controls this whole process and vets them and everything. And a lot of people are afraid to actually give their product to a Vine reviewer because they always say, these Vine reviewers, they're just so negative. They just tear my product apart. And that's probably because your product sucks, and they're being honest. Now, some Vine reviewers will just quickly write something, so there may be a few of them that aren't fair necessarily, but the vast majority of them are just telling the truth. They're professional reviewers, and they see a lot of other stuff. So if yours sucks compared to something else that they've seen, they're going to say it. And so a lot of people are afraid to give their products to Vine reviewers for that reason. And I say, then you haven't done your job. If you're afraid to give it to a Vine reviewer because they may give you something negative, and they may, and that can hurt you, but do everything you can to make sure that's not going to happen. And that's where it starts with good product development and a really good product for success. You have to have differentiation. So we've talked about in the listing, like adjusting your images to be at a different angle or to stand out on the page. I even like to do this with PicFu and the audiences thing on Helium 10, where I will create a listing page, and I will actually I'll Photoshop in my photo on a list of 20 results and ask people which one would they click on and why. And I'll make adjustments based on that. Try to make mine stand out. So that's super important. It doesn't matter how good your product is or how good your listing is. If people aren't clicking on that search result image to actually go through to check out your products, it's not doing you any good. So you got to get people to click that listing. Reviews actually are another important thing. Like we just talked about the Vine reviewers, but getting reviews on your listing and what that star rating is. The star rating can make a huge difference. The difference between 4.3 stars and 4.7 stars is big on that average, because it shows you're going to show 4.5 or 5. 4.8 to 4.7 to 4.8 is a big difference. You don't have to have a perfect star rating of 5 stars, and actually you'll lose some credibility if you actually have all positive reviews. A negative review or 2 is actually a good thing, as long as it's not just scathing and like voted up, but it actually gives your product more credence. And so you don't want to be perfect, because people don't believe perfect, but you don't want to have a lot of bad stuff, but that rating can make a difference. So you want to do everything you can to make sure that you're monitoring your review ratings. Sometimes if people put things in the reviews that they're not supposed to put, you can actually get them removed. It's difficult on Amazon to get most reviews removed. Most reviews on Amazon they're just not going to remove them. But if there's certain rules that if they violate one of these rules, that Amazon will remove it. So you can actually go by the terms of service, and you can open up a case. You can say this review, they were being derogatory towards a certain race because they used this particular word. It's offensive. And then you can oftentimes get the review removed. Or if they made a reference or they put a URL in there, there's a whole list of them. There's also companies that do this for you, and they can usually get about 10 to 15% of the reviews removed. So that's something you got to stay on top of, because one or two bad reviews or the difference between a single tenth of a point can make a huge difference in how you do. When it comes to reviews, typically the number statistically is you need to get to about 21 reviews for people to believe it. So when you have 3 or 4 or 5 reviews, people may not believe it as to be enough. It's a psychological subliminal thing that people just don't believe it yet. So once you get to 21 or above, people will start actually believing, okay, this is probably whatever it says it is. The more reviews you have, the better. When you're competing against people and you're looking for products, the number of reviews can make a difference in whether you decide to go with that product or not. If you're trying to compete against somebody with 10,000 reviews and you have 20, people are probably going to trust the guy with 10,000 more than you. So you may have to be okay with being second place or third place, and maybe there's enough depth there and the search volume that you're fine there. You got enough differentiation, you can overcome that. And so those are things you got to keep in mind as well. The perceived value of your pricing is super important. You got to justify your price with your listing copy, like we talked about earlier. If you're charging a high price and people are like, why does this cost so much? You better have good video, you better have good images, you better have a good reason. Like the dog example that I gave you, the dog treats example in the last module, that works. And I even had one of the biggest sellers in the space, a bully sticks that just crushes it, reach out to me, how the heck is this guy selling these things at this price? We want to partner with him. And so they actually partnered with me, and we did a line of stuff together as well, because it's marketing. It's good marketing. Remember what I said in one of the earlier modules? This is all about marketing and innovation. Everything in business is marketing and innovation, and that's where you win. And that's where we won on that. Brand, your packaging matters. It may not matter as much when the customer gets it, but packaging, if you can include your packaging in the photos, it helps you stand out. It helps perceive value. Remember the knife example I gave you where the knife was selling for, was it $29.95, and they changed the packaging, a couple dollars extra for this packaging, put it in this nice packaging, now it's over $100. They put a little shine or whatever treatment to the knife, make it look a little more classic or whatever. And that same knife added $3 or $4 to the cost, added $80 to the sales price. Those kinds of things are important. Packaging does freaking matter. Even when a customer gets the package, you're talking about people are like, how can I keep from getting bad reviews? Deliver it in a nice package. If you go to, like in Texas, there's a cookie company called Tips Treats. And when you go in and you buy these cookies, they're like $1.50 or $2 a cookie. And they're fresh. They're really good, by the way. But when you get it, they give you a little box with a little bow tie, a little blue tie on top. It's tied in a nice little ribbon. It's all presentation. It's all packaging. And think about when you buy an Apple product, how the packaging is. I mean, you can do overkill, but I've bought stuff as simple as like a little adapter for my MacBook. And it came in this like exquisite box. There's a little cable inside. It could have been just in a plastic bag, but this exquisite box that probably cost them an extra 50 cents to do it. But because of that, in my mind, I'm like, this is a badass cable. This could be a Belkin $50 cable instead of this $3 cable. And so as a result of that, I'm like, maybe I won't leave a bad review because the box is cool. There's a lot of little subliminal things that make a big difference. So you got to pay attention to all these little details. Remember also to make sure your brand registered. That can make a difference on what the tools that you can use and what you can show on your listing, and for discoverability as well with the storefronts and some of the other features, the social media aspects, the posts, and influencer program and different things that you can do. That can make a difference on your discoverability and your SEO on Amazon. Plus you get the hit the followers and you can message them. Like we talked about in one of the earlier modules, that's something important. Make sure, on your keywords, you can actually put this in your packaging. So like if one of your keywords is, 20 grams protein, and let's say you're selling some sort of supplement, and the bottle, it says it kind of small or something on the bottle, but if you can make that bigger, or if you could even put a little stripe across, it looks like a label. It looks like one of those pieces of paper that you slip over the top of the bottle. It says, now contains 20 grams protein or something like that, and put that into your imagery. That can make you stand out, and also it focuses on the keyword. If you can get the keyword that people, remember that I said in the title, 3 to 5 keywords, if you can somehow get those keywords onto your box and your packaging, it can make a difference in your conversions because people put the 2 and 2 together subliminally. And the AI looking at images will also pick that up. So those are really important things. You're going to see a lot of times, there's all kinds of hacks. You're going to see people, sometimes I even share them in my newsletter or in some of the things I do because people love hacks. And hacks can work for a short period of time. They can help you overcome a challenge maybe, but they're usually short-lived. Amazon fixes the loophole, they fixes it. You got to focus on the fundamentals, and that's what we're teaching you here in the Freedom Ticket is fundamentals. Not teaching you the quick little easy things that just work for a little while, but the basics of the business. Focus on those fundamentals, and you're going to have a much better chance of being discovered and lasting. Remember, sourcing is where the profit's made. You make the money in the sourcing, not in the selling. When you're evaluating opportunities, you're evaluating SEO, there's going to be certain benchmarks. So you're evaluating influencers that are going to be promoting you. There's certain benchmarks that you can look at. BSR and sales volume on Amazon are important metrics, but they're vanity metrics. They're indicators of demand, but they're not everything. You can make a lot more money selling less at a higher price sometimes than selling more at a lower price. And also when you're a bestseller and you're up there in the top 1,000 BSR, you're a target. Other people are looking at you. There's nefarious players that like to do nasty things to try to take you down as their competition. There's other people knocking you off. I like to be in the middle of the pack. I like to run 3,000 to 10,000 BSR because I'm kind of off the radar. I'm being discovered, but people don't see me as a formidable threat, so they leave me alone. And those are the numbers where I like to be, and I just live at peace and make money. And so those are good places to be. Brand dominance is something that, sometimes less is better. You don't want to expand too much or have too many options. Limit your options. You don't need to, unless you're selling clothing sizes or shoe sizes where you got to have a huge plethora of options. But if you're doing lots of colors, don't do 100 different colors if it doesn't make sense. Do 3 or 4 and focus on those. Not only does it add to your inventory cost, but it adds to everything else. So that's something else to keep in mind as well. You actually want to look at your listing quality too. Helium 10 has a tool that will give you a listing quality score. The higher the score, the better. Amazon has an internal score as well based on do you have 5 bullet points? Do you have 7 photos? Do you have everything filled in? And the higher score, the better. So that's going to affect your how you show up as well. Your review count and your review rate is also important. If you can get more than 500 reviews on your product, this is going to take time. But that's where the magic can start happening. You start building a little bit of moat. You can still do well with less than 500. But if you can get to that point where it's 500 or more, you can do pretty good. Now, if your competition, everybody has 500 or more, and you're trying to weasel your way into them, it's going to be difficult. So you got to find those holes and those little gaps, and then you got to play to the AI now. So some of the gamemanship and some of the finding gaps and finding keyword holes is going to be slowly going away as Amazon goes more and more towards the A9 algorithm and looking at a lot more factors. But reviews do matter, and the type of reviews that you have in there matter too. So if you're doing package inserts and you're asking people to leave a review, remember, you can't influence them. You can't tell them leave a 5-star review. But if people are leaving reviews, ask them to be complete. Write something. Don't write one sentence. Write more detailed stuff. The age of your listing makes a difference. So the age of your listing, the older the listing, the more old listings there are on what you're competing on, the harder it's going to be for you to knock them off because they have a ton of history that Amazon factors in to the ranking. The dominance in the market, if one seller is dominating, like you look at the X-ray and there's like one guy that's got like 80% of the sales and everybody else is way down, there's either means a couple things. It either means that there's an opportunity there for you to step in and take number 2 spot and probably do well, or it means maybe there's an issue. There's a patent issue, there's a licensing issue, some sort of gating issue. So you need to look into that, and that can play a major factor as well. Keyword conversion rates. You want to try to get a conversion rate. On Amazon has one of the highest conversion rates online. On a Shopify site, if you're driving traffic from Facebook or somewhere, a 2 to 3% conversion rate is considered pretty good. On Amazon, that would be considered horrible because people are coming to Amazon to actually shop. So anything less than 7% on Amazon needs work. So if you're looking at your conversion rates and it's less than 7%, when you're looking at your PPC and some of your session percentages, and they're less than 7%, then you need work on your listing. Ideally, you can get to 15, 20% conversion rate. Now, usually, if you see someone say, oh, I have an 80% conversion rate, I always question that. That means they probably don't have a lot of traffic. So that means they have 10 people a day looking at their listing, and they could have an 80% conversion rate, and that maybe is good. They're in a niche that's really narrow, and they're doing fine. But when people spout that, just make sure you take into all the factors as well. And then price variation. I've mentioned this before, but when I'm doing my research on what to sell, remember I talked about the makeup brushes, where everybody on makeup brush is $3 to $7 or so, and I'm trying to sell my $40 makeup brush kit. There's no way I'm going to rank on that keyword at that price point. But if there's a range of price points, some makeup brushes are $3 or $4. There's somebody else for 10, somebody else for 50, somebody else for 30. I might have a chance to actually sell, because people that are searching on that keyword are not buying based solely on price. They're buying for other reasons, and so my product can stand out. So those are some important things you need to think of when it comes to search engine optimization and actually trying to win that click on Amazon. Next, let's talk about the A9 algorithm and some of the basics of how it works. The A9 algorithm is what controls everything that's displayed on Amazon. It's a special algorithm developed by a group of people in Northern California, actually. They're not in the main offices in Seattle. That's like a secretive group of data scientists that have figured out exactly how to serve up the best, most relevant information that shoppers are looking for. And it's pretty sophisticated. There's a whole industry of Amazon sellers that are trying to reverse engineer this. Nobody knows the secret sauce of exactly how it works except for the people that are on the team. And so it's a tightly guarded secret in the space. But Amazon does occasionally share some of their thoughts. And there's a website called Amazon Science. I think it's science.amazon.com, where there's 100+ papers of data scientists, very technical type of papers, where they explain different ways of rationale of how to rank things and how to analyze keywords and how to do all this. And it doesn't tell you everything, but it tells you kind of what they're thinking. So there's people like Helium 10, for example, has a data scientist that studies these papers. And you could check out the podcast with Bradley did on Serious Sellers with it. And he studies these, and they try to figure out what is it that how do we talk to this A9 algorithm to give the best chance for us as building our listings as product sellers to actually sell more. And so you may hear sometimes people say, oh, there's a new version of it that just came out. It's all because it's constantly evolving. And they may say, oh, well, now there's an A10 or there's the A11. That's all hogwash. That's just marketing and BS. So if you see somebody on YouTube or somewhere that's doing that, run from those people, because they don't know what the hell they're talking about. It's called the A9. It's always called the A9. There's 9 letters in the word algorithm. That's where it supposedly comes from. That's the rumor. The old wives' tale is how it became the A9, Amazon, then A9 letters in algorithm. But there is no such thing as A10. But the thing that's important here is it constantly is evolving and changing. And Amazon right now is going through a phase of adding a lot of AI functionality to it. So it started out with basic keywords, where it's just you just had to have a keyword in your listing, and if that keyword was there would be a match. And that was the original fundamental way it worked. Then they added semantics. So they knew that this word is relative to this word, like tall building and Empire State Building are the same thing, or can be interchangeable in a way. So it would know that this tall building is related to Empire State Building and could serve up results based on that. Originally, it didn't even fix for misspellings. So you had to put in the original Helium 10, scribbles, and there was a original Helium 10 tool set. There was something called a misspellinator, I think was the name of it, or something like that, where it would actually show you misspellings, and you put misspellings into your listings so that you would show up. And Amazon fixed that, as the algorithm evolved. Right now, we're going through a phase where its AI is having heavy influence in what they're doing, and nobody knows exactly right now exactly what that means and how that's going to impact everything. So what I encourage you to do is study up on AI, watch what Amazon's doing, either through my newsletter, billiondollarsellers.com, or through Bradley, the newsletter Bradley puts out, or the weekly buzz that comes out every weekend from Helium 10, and watch the webinars that we do monthly for Freedom Ticket. Join one of those webinars, because we'll be covering the latest stuff that's happening in the A9. But part of what you got to do right now is you got to market towards this A9 to the best of our ability, and that's creating the most complete listing possible, like we talked about, all the different ways to do that. And it's creating that relevance and creating that interconnection and satisfying customers that makes a huge difference. Now, on the A9, it's not just internally how you rank for a product on the search results on Amazon to be discovered. It's not just the internal metrics, it's also some external metrics. So Amazon, as of now, their A9 algorithm will actually reward you for sending outside traffic. So if you're running PPC, nobody knows exactly, but the general idea is that if you're running PPC.
Anh chị đang bán hàng trên Amazon, Skyrock cung cấp các dịch vụ dành cho các nhà bán hàng trên Amazon với mức giá cực kỳ ưu đãi như đăng ký brand với USPTO, từ Talent Hand, từ trên Scout, Logistics và Warehouse. Xem hình thông tin chi tiết dưới phần mô tả nhé.
In a keyword, Amazon might give you a little bit of extra love, and you might be rank a couple spots higher possibly because of that, organically. Or if you're sending outside traffic, you're running TikTok ads, or Facebook ads, or Instagram ads, and you're sending that traffic to Amazon, Amazon likes that because even if those people don't buy your product, they may buy something else while they're there. They remember, oh, I need some toilet paper, and they go buy toilet paper, or they buy something else. So Amazon rewards that, and they reward that even to the point where they have a program, if you're brand registered, where they have something called the brand referral bonus, where they'll give you 10% back, and they'll actually pay you for sending that outside traffic. So if you use a special link that you can get from brand registry, it's a brand referral link, you can run ads on Google, for example, and use this special link that sends it to Amazon, to your product on Amazon. And if someone ends up buying, Amazon waives part of their fee to you. And it's kind of like a reward to you to say, here's some of the money back. Thanks for sending us the traffic. And you can use that to help subsidize your ads and stuff on Google. So they like that. They like getting eyeballs into the platform, and because they know that you might not buy your product, but while they're there, they'll remember they need something else. So complete listings are super important. So we talked about that in the last module. Building a complete listing with your title, your description, paying attention to your photos, being relevant, and trying to really go after that avatar. Make sure you got all bases covered, not just keyword-wise, but avatar-wise and emotionally, relationally, all those ways. The category, again, on the A9, that we talked about this in the nodes and one of the other modules, is super critical that you're in the right category. So if you're not getting results based on the keywords that you think you should be getting results on, you might need to switch categories and switch nodes. Remember, some things can be in multiple categories depending on how they're classified, or they can apply to different categories. A water bottle could be in a health category, or it could also be in a sports category. And depending on the keywords that you're targeting and the artists you're targeting, you might need to switch categories to show the A9 algorithm that, hey, you're relevant for this category and this set of keywords. So it's important how you pick your category. Now, some of the strategies of helping to affect the AI is PPC, pay-per-click advertising. We're going to talk about that a little bit more in the next module. Sending the outside traffic, like I just said. Plus, there's just a process of Amazon's A9 and their AI now, just doing trial and error, just figuring out who you are, what type of people are buying. And I think the biggest takeaway, though, is you have to start selling to the AI. And so what does that exactly mean? We're still figuring that out right now. That's why you should watch the webinars that we do each month, or check on the podcast, AM/PM podcast or Serious Sellers podcast for the latest on that. We'll keep you up to date. But there's a lot of changes. We talked about it earlier, how you do your images, and I gave you some specific examples in one of the earlier modules about how you compose your images. This are going to affect to the AI, the type of reviews, the type of questions people are asking on your listing, the way you fill out the description, the way you describe the product, not just with making it keyword dense with the keywords you're targeting, but making it contextually and relevancy dense. So Amazon search is, in the past, one of the ways that you would search, and with Rufus and some of the other AI things that they're developing right now, instead of if you're going to the beach and you need to you're going to, say, Panama City, Florida for the holidays in the summer with your family. In the past, you're like, okay, what do I need? I need a beach towel. I need a beach chair. I need an umbrella. I need a picnic basket. So each one of those things you would have to search for individually. You would search for picnic basket, or you search for umbrella, or you search for beach chair or cooler or whatever it is. Amazon now with the AI is able to actually group all that stuff together, and you can actually ask it a question. I'm traveling to Pensacola, Florida in July with my family of 4. And Amazon, maybe the AI might ask you a couple of questions like how old are the kids or who's going, or it may already know based on your past history of what you've bought. It knows that you've bought stuff for an 8-year-old. It knows you've bought stuff recently for a 12-year-old. It knows a little. It knows maybe you bought some clothes on Amazon and you wear a size large shirt or something. So it knows general stuff. So it will start using that information to actually tailor the results. And I'll show you everything that you need for a trip to Pensacola, Florida in the summer, knowing that the temperature in July is probably going to be this. So you need this protection sunscreen. It's going to be doing more of that kind of stuff. So gaming the system on Amazon for ranking is going to change. We don't know exactly how, like I said, but it's an evolving space. But it's important to follow this and important to stay on top of it and to create the most robust listing you can. That's the key message here, is the most robust listing that you can. Make sure your listing solves problems and answers questions. You can go to answerthepublic.com and see what people are asking about your subject. You can type in a keyword and it'll tell you what people are, and if you can take that kind of stuff and put that in your Q&A on your listing, or even put it into your description or your A+ content, those kinds of things are going to help you, I believe, rank in the AI. So I think tools like answerthepublic.com are going to be super important for creating this Q&A type of search results versus just straight up keyword type search results. So build some of that into your listing. Try to solve problems. What's in it. Make sure you focus on the benefits, not the features. The why. Answer the whys. Use tools like Helium 10. Helium 10's follow-up tool can be a great tool to help you re-engage with customers and remind them to leave reviews after the fact, so that those reviews can be mined by the AI and the algorithm. You make sure you pay attention to your organic versus your paid sales. Remember, organic is the sales that you don't pay; you just show up in the page, and paid sales are what you're actually paying PPC. You're paying for keywords to actually show up and be relevant for those. Those kinds of things are super important when it comes to ranking into the A9. Your conversion is probably one of the most important things, one of the top factors. When it comes to PPC, you want to have your sales that are coming from PPC ideally be between 20 and 40%. So when you first launch a product, it might be 100% coming from PPC because you have no sales history. So you got to drive that traffic. But over time, you want to get that to be about 20 to 40% of your sales are coming from advertising. Less is better if you can maintain a good, healthy sales rate. But 20 to 40% is considered a pretty healthy number. You want to make sure those keywords are converting well for you, because Amazon's not just about how much do you pay, it's how much are you paying plus how well do you convert. So how good is your listing? PPC is a great way to help you get visibility. It's a great way to actually teach the A9 algorithm, this is what I'm relevant for, because it'll analyze your listing and it'll say, I think it's relevant. Kevin's product is relevant for this. But wait a second, on the PPC, everybody's buying based on these other keywords. This other keyword's doing really well and getting a high conversion rate. So therefore, maybe it's a little bit more relevant for this. So it'll shift its thinking a little bit over time. And so you want to adjust based on your PPC and how things are converting, and de-emphasize things that aren't working so it doesn't teach the algorithm incorrectly, and double down on things that are working so that it properly guides it in the right way. The conversion rates when you come to a listing on Amazon, like I've mentioned before, Shopify or somewhere like 2 or 3% on the standard site. Anything below 7% on Amazon is you need work on your listing. Something's not right. You should be hitting at least a 7% conversion rate. This is called the unit session percentage, so you can see this in your reports. So it's the number of people that come to your listing versus the number of people that actually end up buying something. You can also see this data on your competitors by going into, if you're brand registered and have your trademark registered, you can go into brand analytics and product opportunity explorer, and it'll show you the conversion rates of the top 3 sellers in the category, or the top 3 most clicked, the top 3 that have the highest conversion rate. And you can get an idea and take it and reverse engineer what those other people are doing and see if you can apply some of what they're doing to your listing. A 7 to 15% conversion rate is pretty standard, pretty average. 15 to 20%, you're doing good. If you're above 20%, that's great, especially if you have a decent amount of traffic. Like I said, outside traffic can really help you on the ranking. You got to make sure on the algorithm, the A9, you keep an eye on your reviews and your inventory management. Amazon will rank you a little bit better if the more inventory you have. If you're about to run out of stock and somebody else has got a lot of stock, they may actually penalize you. Nobody knows exactly how much, but you may actually get penalized a little bit, and they may show somebody else. When it comes to inventory management too, make sure now with the new systems, you're in stock in these different little hubs that we talked about earlier around the country. And sometimes that may mean when you do your inventory planning, you guys ship in, instead of shipping to one place, you may have to split it to 3 or 4 places so you can speed up this delivery, speed up the check-in time so you can make sure you stay in stock locally. Otherwise, you might not show up. Like I said earlier, if you have a product in stock in California, but someone in New York wants to order it, Amazon may not even show it because it's not available locally when there's other options that are available locally. The other thing is the buy box is super important. The buy box is where you can just hit that one click. So that's called the buy box. It means you're in the buy box. Usually if you're the only guy selling, you're going to have the buy box unless there's a technical issue or you have a pricing issue. But if you're multiple sellers on a listing, and there's 7 people selling the same thing, and this is mostly for wholesale, you have buy box rotation where the buy box rotates. So today, Kevin's dog bowl is in the buy box. Tomorrow, Bradley's is in the buy box. The next click, somebody else is in the buy box, and it kind of rotates through. But that's based on a number of factors: your IPI, your ranking, your feedback score, your price, a whole number of factors. So you always want to try to maintain at least 30 days of stock as well, and keep your feedback rating above 98% when possible. Amazon will look at things about pricing. They scrub other sites, like say Walmart, or even your own personal website. So eBay, if you're selling cheaper somewhere outside of Amazon, Amazon will sometimes suppress the buy box. Now there's some rulings going on around the FTC, and this could change, but Amazon doesn't like it when you sell cheaper somewhere else. So they don't kick you off. They just don't put you in the buy box. It's kind of like you're in timeout until you fix your price and make it more in line with what you're selling elsewhere. Amazon wants to discourage people from going off of Amazon and buying it somewhere else. The other thing is that there's something called, the nickname is the honeymoon period. This is not really official. This is what some outsiders that have been analyzing the A9 have called it. And it's called the honeymoon period. And the general idea is that when you first launch a product, you have a window where there's no data. Amazon has no data. They don't know what's relevant, what the history is. So you kind of have, there's a different school of thought on, is it 2 weeks? Is it a month? Is it 45 days? Is it the first 1,000 visits to the page? There's different schools of thought, but the general consensus is there is a window in the beginning that you have where you need to take advantage of that window. You don't just want to put your product up and just kind of have it just sitting there doing nothing for a while, because you could lose advantage. So you want to, when you first launch your product, you want to set a date and make sure that you actually have stock. So if you're setting up your listing, you can put a future date. You can put, this will be released on 2 months from now. And you can always change the date and move it forward if you want to, but don't have the Amazon clock start ticking before it's necessary. So once you first come into stock, you need to be ready to fire. You need to be ready to start sending traffic, start running ads. You need to have all your ducks in a row, have your friends and family ready to buy the product, have your marketing, your Facebook stuff ready to go, have your influencers lined up so that out of the gates, you can come out hitting hard and try to give your product the best chance to launch. It's kind of like a rocket ship shooting off of Cape Canaveral. You got those big thrusters and those big rockets on the bottom that lift it up into the atmosphere, and then things start peeling off and it just kind of floats and guides. It's kind of a similar process on the honeymoon period. You want to put all those thrusters on straight away and take advantage of those first 2 to 4 weeks and come out hitting hard. Otherwise, it's going to be a little bit more of a struggle to rank on some of the keywords for you. Your click-through rate is super important too. How many times Amazon shows your product, either through PPC or organically, and how many times does someone actually click on it? So that's where standing out with the listing and creating the main image that's a standout image and looks different than the rest can help you get that click rate, because the more people are clicking on it, the more people Amazon's going to show you. Don't obsess over the BSR. Like I said before, your bestseller rank, that's not something you need to focus on. Avoid running out of stock at all costs. If you run out of stock for a day or two, you're probably okay. But if you're out of stock for weeks, you're basically starting over. Even if you got a lot of reviews, it's just going to tank you. You can regain it, some of that space, some of that spot. You might slip from a BSR, say 1,000 to 100,000 by going out of stock for a while. But when you come back, you'll go up to, as soon as you start making some sales, you'll get back up to 50,000, then 40,000, then 30,000. But you might not ever get back to 1,000. You're going to probably be somewhere 2,000 to 5,000. So it hurts you. So running out of stock is a major no-no on Amazon. And if you do run out of stock, there's some people say, well, should you raise your price? Should you slow things down? I'm not a believer of raising your price to slow sales down. I believe if you're going to go out of stock, go out with a bang. It's kind of like someone, Tom Brady retiring after he wins the Super Bowl, not when he's, just had his worst season ever. You want to go out on top. So go out on top, and then you can close the listing, or you can set your pricing to be something crazy high so that it defaults to an error, and you can kind of stop the ticker from clocking in zeros on your sales. And that'll help you a little bit, but you want to just try to avoid it, period. Your refund rate is important. Amazon will penalize you if you have a high refund rate. Typically anything above 3% is considered bad by Amazon, unless you're in clothing or something with a lot of sizes. Then you can go up to 15 to 20%. But you'll get warnings if you start having a high refund rate. Amazon now also shows, like on some of the listings, like this product is returned a lot, or I forget the exact wording, but something to that effect. And so it's a discouragement. So you want to do anything you can to avoid returns and refunds to make sure your product is top notch. Videos are great to add in for engagement. Your review rating is important. Whether you have 3 stars, 3.5 stars, 4, 4.5, or 5, that's super important. People can filter by that. Even I often filter by 4 stars and up, so I eliminate the things that are too low. The Q&A section is a great section to use you can ask questions yourself, or actually you can have friends ask questions, and then you can answer them. You can use Answer the Public to get some of these questions, or have your friends say, does this product work? Does this go well with such and such? And then you answer the question and put keywords in there. That'll help the AI. It'll help the algorithm. Those are things. If you can get badges, there's badges like Climate Friendly Badge. If your product is sustainable, you can apply to get these special badges that show up, and those can really drive your sales. If you can get a bestseller badge, your sales will go up on average, according to Amazon, 41%. So just having the bestseller badge can raise your sales by 41%. But there's other ones, Best New Release, there's Amazon's Choice, there's the Climate Friendly, there's Frustration-Free Packaging. There's a ton of these badges, so explore the badges, and if you qualify for some of those, some of them are like small business owner or minority. All those little badges can help you stand out and help you get extra traffic. Remember, keywords are essential on selling on Amazon. We've talked about that in detail, but you got to use the relevant keywords in your listing. Got to be in the correct category. Title is super important. The bullet points are super important. Those back-end search terms are super important. But more important is the perceived value, and that's what you do with images related to your price. Those are super, super important things when it comes to selling on Amazon. So I think in the last couple modules, we've given you a lot of good insights on how to create your listing, how to optimize it for SEO, how to optimize it for the A9. And I hope this has given you some insight and some direction to help you go out there and crush it on Amazon.
Anh chị đang bán hàng trên Amazon. Skyrock cung cấp các dịch vụ dành cho các nhà bán hàng trên Amazon với mức giá cực kỳ ưu đãi như đăng ký brand với USPTO, từ LIệN, từ cho Scout, logistics và warehouse. Xem hình thông tin chi tiết dưới phần mô tả nhé.